I'm Chef Frank, this is Pro2Cooks, and today we're making Käse Spätzle, or cheesy German pasta. Chef Frank, what is Käse Spätzle? Now, I could be pronouncing that totally wrong. I don't speak German, but basically it's a German pasta. Spätzle or Spätzle or Spätzle is a German pasta. It's super simple to make. It's really delicious. And if you put the Käse in front of it, it means cheese Spätzle. So basically what we're making today is a cheesy German pasta. Ever since 2008, we've thrown an annual Oktoberfest in my house. And every year, this is on the menu. It's cheesy, it's warm, everyone loves it. My brother-in-law usually makes 2 huge trays of it, and it all goes, and then people take it home with them if we have any left over. And it's just been a mainstay in an Oktoberfest celebration. So if your family makes this dish, I want to hear how you make it, how you like it. As always, this is my version of the dish, so it could be different than the way Grandma made it. I understand that, and it's okay. Put it down in the comments. I love reading about it. I try and answer as many as I can. For my cheesy German pasta, this is what you're gonna need. Sliced onions, garlic, milk, Cambozola cheese, heavy cream, butter, eggs, and flour. And of course, salt and pepper. Before we start cooking, I want to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Cambozola cheese. Cambozola is made in Bavaria, and I'm really excited because that's where Oktoberfest is held. So this cheese is made where Oktoberfest is. It's a bloomy white rind cheese with very mild blue notes. It's triple cream, it's creamy delicious, and belongs on your table. Not only that, this cheese pairs exceptionally well with apples, figs, honey, fruit preserves, dry sausages. But I have to tell you, I really love it with a warm pretzel and a big stein of Oktoberfest beer. And of course, it's gonna be amazing as the main ingredient in my Spätzle. So I wanna thank Cambozola for sponsoring this video. I'm gonna put a link right here where you can find it. Go out to your store and buy it today. Are you ready to cook? I know I am. Let's go. Basically, this is a 3 or 4 part recipe, something like that. And what we're gonna have is caramelized onions, cheese sauce, and Spätzle. So I'm gonna start with the onions because they're gonna take a long time. I wanna caramelize them low and slow so they get nice and sweet and brown. So let's go over to the stove and work on that. All right, the first thing I'm gonna do is throw some butter in the pan and let it melt. All right, my butter is melted. I'm gonna add those onions in. And I'm gonna just hit them with a little salt right now. The salt will draw out some moisture and start to get those onions to weep down a little. A little bit of black pepper. I'm just gonna get these starting to cook down. The thing about caramelized onions is you gotta be patient. Gotta give them time. Make sure you're patient with them and don't rush it. While the onions are cooking, let's make the cheese sauce. I'm gonna start out with a little bit of butter. Melt that butter. I'm gonna put a little garlic in there as well. I like garlic. I'm not sure if it's traditionally German to put the garlic in there, but I like the flavor it gives here. All right, once the butter is melted, we're gonna add some flour, and I'm looking for a wet sand consistency. So I don't really have a measurement for this, it's more by eye. And we're basically making a bechamel or a Mornay sauce, which is a cheese sauce. And you see how it's kind of wet sand. See, that to me looks like wet sand, right? You might make a sandcastle out of it. Stir it. And we want this just to get a little fragrant. We want it to smell a little like baking bread. So you don't want this to get dark or any color on it, but you do want it to just cook like the rawness out of the flour. I usually use a heat-proof spatula and a whisk for this, because what I'm gonna do now is take my milk and pour it in. So I use my spatula to get in the corners, and then I use my whisk to break up the roux. So you can see that it's starting to thicken. Make sure I scrape around, get any roux or anything that's on the side. I'm gonna let this kind of come to a simmer and then lower it down, just to cook that raw flour flavor out. It's been a few minutes and my onions are starting to get lightly caramelized. I'm gonna add a little bit of garlic and just keep letting it go. Look at that, you can see they're already getting nice. All right, my sauce has been cooking for a few minutes. I'm gonna add my heavy cream. because I want this to be decadent. Just let that warm up a little. And then we can add our cheese. So we're back at the onions and they're starting to get nice and soft. You can see that they're starting to get light golden brown. They're a little less than halfway through. These will take a few minutes, so don't rush it. Like I said before, be patient. They smell delicious. My sauce has the cream in there. It's bubbling away happily. I'm gonna shut the heat off. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my beautiful Cambozola cheese, see, take that off. I'm gonna add all of the cheese, bloomy white rind and everything. I love the flavor of the rind. It gives it a great taste. My Cambozola is in there. I'm gonna get my stick blender. I'll try and keep my spatula out of the way and I'm gonna buzz it in. I'm gonna hit it with a little salt and pepper as well. And buzz that in. Let's give it a quick taste with your Star Wars tasting spoon to see if the seasoning's right. Needs a little more salt. So the sauce is ready. Let's put that aside and make our spätzle, or spätzle, or whatever they call it. The next step is to make the dough for the spätzle, or the batter, and it couldn't be easier. It's basically throw everything in a bowl and stir it up. So let's get to it. I have eggs. I'm gonna crack my eggs in the bowl. Make sure you get it everywhere. I have milk. I'm just gonna break my yolks up. I'm gonna hit this with some salt, season it up, and then we're just gonna dump our flour in and make our dough. Give it a stir, 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 stir. I'm not worried about over mixing. I do want to develop the gluten just a little in this to make it stretchy. But at the end of the day, this is kind of a wet dough or batter. We have to be able to push it through some holes into the boiling water, which I'll show you in a minute. And this is kind of the consistency I want. Nice and smooth, just a little stretchy. That's perfect right there. Now that the dough is ready, we have to cook it. I have a pot of boiling water on over there that I'm gonna bring here. And then I have two pieces of equipment that I bought. The first one is probably my least favorite, but the most common one is this spätzle maker. And you put your dough in there and you run it back and forth and it kind of drips into the liquid and makes these perfect little dumplings. I personally like this one a little bit better. You have a spatula and then you put your dough on top and you push it through and then you get those nice little dumplings coming that way. These aren't expensive. I think that this one was $12. I think this was $12 or $13 as well. So it's a piece of equipment that I like to have in my kitchen. You don't necessarily have to have one, but it's good to have in your kitchen if you want to do this often. My onions are caramelized. They look delicious. They smell delicious. Let's put them aside for the final assembly. All right, time to cook the spätzle. I have my water boiling. I'm going to add salt because I always season my water. I have my batter and I have my spätzle maker, right? We're going to put this on top and we're going to pour some of our dough or batter on, and I'm gonna push it through. Just push it through and let it drop through. Look what's happening. Look, you can see the little drippies. That's what I want. See, it's dripping in there. That is what we're looking for. So push your dough through, or your batter, whatever you want to call it. I never know what to call it. And let these come to a simmer. They don't take long to cook. It only takes a minute or two to cook. And I'm gonna do this in batches. Let them drip. I have a plate on the side. I have my sheet tray. I'm just gonna let the water come back up to the boil and then I'm gonna strain. All right, these look like they're done. Tap, tap, tap. Get all of the liquid off. Put them on your tray. tap them off, put them on your tray, and let's finish the rest of the dough. All right, the spätzle is done. It's beautiful, and now we can assemble the rest of the dish. Look at it, it's gorgeous. All right, after all that work, it's time to assemble the dish. We're gonna throw it in the broiler to get it nice and bubbly, but first we have to mix it up. I have a beautiful Pyrex dish. For those of you that don't know, I am a Pyrex fanatic, hashtag Pyrex lover. So we're gonna assemble everything in the dish. So I'm gonna take my beautiful spätzle, and we're gonna throw it in the dish. I might not need it all, but what's great about this is even if I don't use it all, I can easily just freeze it and just warm it up when I want it. Okay, I think that's a good amount. Let's add the onions. Onions go in. I think traditionally these get put on top, but I'm crazy because I want them in there, right? And I'm gonna add my cheese sauce with the Cambozola. Get that in there really nice. Look at that, cheesy. Let's see if we need it all or we don't need it all. And I'm just gonna mix this together really well. Oh my gosh, look at that. All right, I'm gonna take some of the Cambozola that I didn't buzz in, and I'm just gonna kind of crack it on top and put like little lumps around so that we get some nice cheesy melt on top. All right, we get some of that cheese on top, push it in there a little. Let's flatten it out a little. Let's throw it in the broiler and get it bubbly. All right, coming out of the oven, look at that. Caramelized and delicious on top. I can't wait to break into it. It is officially time to taste. Got a little bowl. I'm gonna take a nice scoop, put it in there. Make sure you get some of that crunchy top. Get your Star Wars tasting spoon. It's rich, it's creamy. Got a slight hint of that blue from the Cambozola cheese. You don't need a lot of this. If you eat a lot, you're gonna fall asleep. This is fall weather comfort food at its best. I hope you enjoyed this video. If it did, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We have merch in the description down below. We have a P.O. box down there. I want to thank my Patreon patrons for supporting us. I especially want to thank Cambozola for sponsoring this video. Your cheese is wonderful. And that is my Käse Spätzle, or cheesy German pasta. I'm Chef Frank. This is Proto Cooks. Auf Wiedersehen.